want to thank you so much for joining us today and welcome you into Aspire to Retire with Ralph Short and Tim Short, the financial advisors and the father-son team behind Welcome Home Financial Partners. You can go to the website, welcomehomefp.com, to find out more about Ralph, about Tim, about the entire team at Welcome Home Financial Partners. Or you can give a call as well, 804-635-3550. 3 offices right here in the Richmond area. The number is the same, though. It'll get you where you need to be, 804-635-3550. Education is something that the Shorts pride themselves on here on the show, in the offices, of course, in the events that they do throughout the area. Before we dive in to the education this week on the show, let me check in. Ralph and Tim, it's good to be with you once again. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good, sir. How about yourself?
Doing good.
Doing well. Good. Appreciate it. We'd be remiss if we did not mention it is Mother's Day. We talked about that a little bit last week, but happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Really do appreciate you and all that you do. And gentlemen, appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to spend with the listeners. Now, speaking of the listeners, you've probably heard that commercial where somebody says, I hate annuities. Not going to name his name. It rhymes with Ben. You get the idea. But here's the thing. He might actually be in the minority because last year alone, over $464 billion with a B dollars worth of annuities were sold, setting another record, beating the record set the previous year. So I'm curious, have you seen people come in that are dead set against annuities only to rethink things once they've had a little bit more information presented to them?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it is it's very common now for people to be more open to the actual idea because there's a lot of, look, nothing's going to be the same all the time, right? So there's a lot of people out there that think, okay, hey, this annuity is going to be the same as the next annuity as far as the next annuity and so on and so forth. But things look different for everybody. And there's a lot of folks out there right now that, if you can protect some of your money and guarantee some income, it's not that big of a issue, so to speak. But I think people are open to more they're open up to more education and being more open-minded to them.
And I would say to most people, somebody must be correct in buying annuities because people just don't buy something that's not good for them. So, people on Wall Street probably won't like it, but people on Main Street, I think, do like annuities. Why else would they be selling 464 billion of them in a year's point in time? One thing I would say to you, most people that buy annuities are a little bit more worried about retiring without a pension. So now they got to have a paycheck. They got to figure out where that income is coming from. And will my money last? That's the big question that people have when they come into our office. And you're right about one thing, Chris. When people do come in here, there's a lot of people that'll say, I don't want to have anything to do with an annuity, but once they understand how they work, then they usually change their mind because it's not for everyone, but for people that want to make sure they can not outlive their money, it's a good option for them if they understand how they work. Is it good for everybody? Probably not, but is it good for certain people that's trying to protect from market risks that they might have? Because we all know what happens with the market. It goes up and it goes down. And the problem with all of that is when it goes down is what? You're taking out money and selling more to get the same amount of money. So I would say to most people, it's what keeps you up at night. That's what you've got to figure out. That's what you have to answer when it comes to retirement planning. And, you don't have to figure it out alone by yourself. That's what we do in our First Fridays. We have education there. We talk to people when they come in, not just about what programs they want, what products they want. We talk about what is their lifestyle. How can we achieve your lifestyle that you want? Would you not agree with that, Tim?
No, absolutely. I think many clients come in skeptical because they've never really quite understood how annuities create, either guaranteed income or protection from the market. But they've come a long way. They've evolved, right? 10, 12, 15 years ago, they look a hell of a lot different than they do right now. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And that's the whole thing is things evolve, things change. So you've got to make sure that you're up to speed. And there's so many people out there that try to do their own research. And let's face it, there's a lot of information online. Can't say it's all accurate. Right. So that's why it's important to find that from the professional, right? But I think the educational side needs to be first because, would we look at a protected growth strategy for a 20-year-old? Probably not. No. Right? But when it comes down to being closer to retirement or being in retirement, if we want to guarantee some income or if we want to make sure that we can guarantee against loss it might be a good idea for some of your portfolio. And, when people hear the aid word, we say that quite a bit, is as soon as you say annuity, people, and you can see it in their face. I know Dad will tell you the same thing. You bring it up and they're just dead set, like, no, I don't know about this. And then we explain, because look, we're not going to recommend it for everybody, but this could potentially be one of the strategies for a pre-retiree or retiree. But a lot of people get dead set against it. But once you start going through it, and it's like, well, why do they make these things out to be so bad? Well, it depends on who's talking, number one, but you can't just put generic information out there for the one size fits all deal, because once again, everybody who walks through our doors, they might not be, introduced to an annuity, but it's all dependent on that client, what they're trying to accomplish. But I think it's very hard to pass judgment when you don't have the facts in front of you.
And I would say, give us a call so we can explain certain things to people, so that there's a difference between hoping it's going to work out for your retirement years and knowing that you're going to be okay. That's exactly what our roadmap is designed to do, is help you understand and visualize what your retirement is going to look like. Whether you have annuities, whether you do assets under management or managed money accounts, it's all about, those are products. What we want you to do is understand you're going to be okay in retirement. Or if you're not right now, how can we get you there? And that's the biggest thing that people need to understand. It's not about a sales product. It's about you and your goals and your aspirations. How do you get to where you want to go? So give us a call.
Are all annuities created the same? No, not at all. Are all of them good or bad? Or likewise, it really depends on the situation. You gentlemen are both golfers. I am very much not. And I do a favor to both of you by not joining you guys out there. But I do know that the perfect golf shot is the one at the end of the day that goes into the hole. The perfect retirement strategy is the one that suits the client. And that's going to vary from person to person in the same sort of way. With golf, I know that you guys have, specialized shoes, golf spikes, things like that. Football, they have cleats. Basketball, no cleats at all. Soccer, very different. Based on what they're trying to achieve, it's a different sort of shoe. And it's the same sort of thing when it comes to annuities. Based on what you're trying to achieve, there may be a strategy out there that'll work in your favor, but you may be playing basketball. You may not need one at all. And the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners, the fiduciaries, Ralph Short and Tim Short, they're not going to recommend something just for the sake of recommending it. They are going to say, we believe this is going to work in your best interest, and here is why. Present you with that information, give you that education. But at the end of the day, it is ultimately your call to make. So the phone number, 804-635-3550. Maybe you've heard some of these, these things about annuities that maybe give them that bad taste in your mouth. Bring that to the table. Bring that to the conversation. Let them educate you, give you more insight. Maybe they'll find out, yes, based on this, you don't actually need an annuity, or this would not suit you, but you don't know until you set up that complimentary time to speak with them. 804-635-3550, or go online to the website at welcomehomefp.com. Are you shopping for your first financial advisor? Well, we appreciate you joining us this week. Recommendations, though, they can come from anywhere, online, family, perhaps a friend. But when you're actually interviewing an advisor, what should you be paying attention to? Here's Wealth Manager Brandon Mull on the Broadcast Retirement Network.
You're going to be working with your advisor for the long term and through major life events. And all of those things, a good advisor will step through those life phases with you. And if you meet someone through your brother-in-law or at a country club, it might work out, but you never really know. So you really want to evaluate that personal fit and relationship. And you're trying to understand as well, will this person call me back? How much did they care about me? Are they listening more than talking at me? And they should be able to give you a really good comfort level and confidence that, hey, even when the market is up and down and sideways and whatever, I have a good understanding of the plan we have in place, and I have every confidence that you'll be right by my side.
He said the word relationship in there, and I don't know if people really think about that. If we're talking about a plan to get you to, through, and beyond retirement, perhaps 30 plus years, which is a long-term relationship. And so it makes sense that you get along with and you trust and you understand that person that you're entering into this relationship with. So when someone is interviewing an advisor or a potential advisor, what are some red flags they should be on the lookout for that might suggest that, maybe it's not going to be the right long-term fit?
Well, there are several red flags out there, but it's true this is a relationship. This is like a marriage. We've compared it to getting married, right? Mm-hmm. Now, granted, obviously things are going to be a little bit different, but yeah, and that's what I think if you find that right advisor, having that team behind you, it makes you sleep better at night, and you'll know that you're not going through retirement alone, right? One of the biggest questions that we get, well, I'll speak for myself, that I get quite a bit is, okay, hey, what's the best way to contact you? And we'll talk about it. But I think, if you feel as though the conversation that you have with that potential advisor is more transactional and not, not very communicative, and it's just kind of one-sided. Look, the only way we can do our job is we have to listen to you first, right? So like when we talk about building a retirement roadmap in our process, meeting number one, we're doing way less talking, because how are we to do our job without knowing their end goals and their current situation?
Right.
And if you feel as though, hey, okay, I've been in here for an hour and I've only said 2 words, is this really going to end up working out? So there's always got to be that communication. The communication solves everything. You're talking to 2 guys who've been married for quite some time. Obviously, I don't know how my mother did it, but I can tell you how my wife does it. We keep that line of communication open. I'm just making sure he's listening to me. But I think that's very important. But once again, if you feel like somebody's trying to push you to some sort of product, or here we go. Let's bring up the A word again.
Okay.
If in that first meeting, you're sitting down with somebody, with that potential advisor, and you've got $1 million and they're telling you before 60 minutes is up, hey, we're going to go ahead and put $750,000 into this annuity. That's a huge red flag. Mm-hmm. Dad will say the same thing, is there's very, 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 very few recommendations that will come out in the first meeting, because we have to understand your goal, your lifestyle, what you want. There's a difference between wants and needs, and that's sometimes why the meetings last a little bit longer, is because people can't determine what the difference is between the want and the need. But I think, once again, if you feel as though somebody is not listening to you, I tell people all the time, we work for you. Yes, we're going to give you recommendations. Yes, we're going to give you feedback. Sometimes you might not like the feedback, but we work for you. So ultimately, you have the final say so. And I can tell you from a lot of people that come to our doors, they feel like they're old or maybe current advisor, they're just not listening. Well, guess what? They're getting paid, so they need to listen.
Mm.
And I would say this, you've worked all your life, if you're in the retirement years, to save money. You've done a good job. You've got a lot of money somewhere, and you deserve to make sure it's going to last you for as long as you're around. Okay. And if the guy that you've got managing your accounts is not listening to you, not returning phone calls, then you need to make another phone call to make sure that it can protect everything that you worked so hard for all your life. You're trusting that person that you're about to hire with your life savings. And you need to ask those questions that you are comfortable trying to find out those answers. And if you cannot find that, and you don't understand what he's trying to say to you, and if he talks over your head, I think that's one thing we kind of pride ourselves in, is we want to make sure that we talk to people on Main Street. We don't want to use equations. We don't want to use those big fancy words that, Wall Street New Yorkers use all the time. I believe that most people need to understand the value of what they have. They don't need to understand every little nuance of it, but why do I need to do this? Why is this creating value to me? That's what you need to understand. You need a second opinion. Go for it. Until you understand why it is that you bought what you've got, or whether that person sold you something and you don't understand why, that's probably another red flag that you might say, give us a call. Let's see if we can give you an opinion and help you understand what it is that you have.
Yeah, one of the biggest questions that we get, especially in the first meeting, is how we get paid.
Sure.
And we tell them, it's like, hey, we don't know how this is going to work, because we have no idea what we're going to recommend, because every strategy is going to work a little bit different. Maybe there's no direct fee to you. Maybe there is, whatever. But that's when, meeting number 2, when we kind of lay everything out there, we show them transparently, this is what it's going to cost you, if anything, because that's us doing our job, right? So if you are out there and you don't know what you're paying your current advisor, or you're unsure, or you're really wondering why you're paying the advisor, that's why I think it's important for that second opinion.
Even a first opinion, if you don't have an advisor already as it stands, it is important. Again, as we said, it is a relationship. It is outside of that marriage, probably the longest relationship you may have, especially in retirement. And as Brandon Mull said there, you want to make sure that they're there in the good times and the bad, kind of going back to that relationship sort of situation. When people come in for the first time and you ask them if they have any questions, is there ever a situation where they don't ask a question, but you feel like they should be inquiring about something, and then do you go ahead and bring that up for them?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think, this is one of those things, money's emotional, right?
Right.
Once again, if you've worked 20, 30, 40 years for this, and then you're going to sit down with somebody who's a complete stranger. Now, there's a lot of people who've, watched our television program, have listened to the radio podcast or whatever, so they kind of feel like they know us. So it helps them a little bit easier to get more comfortable. But that's the whole thing is you've got to make them comfortable. If people feel comfortable, they like to open up. So yeah, can there be some meetings where it's like, okay, hey, do you have any questions in the first 5 minutes? And you can tell they're holding back. They usually will let them out before that first meeting is up.
And I would say to most people, it's not about being smart. It's about being protected. So, even hardworking, successful people have lost everything because they trusted the wrong person, because they didn't ask the right questions and they hired somebody without really understanding what it is that they were doing. So I would say get a second opinion, number one.
Ralph said there, you don't have to understand every single nuance when it comes to your financial plan, but you should have a pretty good idea of why you are allocated where you are, what you are paying, how accessible those advisors are in the good times and the bad. And, if you have those questions right now about your financial advisor, or you don't have a financial advisor, I encourage you to pick up the phone and set up a complimentary time to speak with Ralph and Tim Short, with the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners. You can go to welcomehomefp.com, schedule that time, find out more about them, those events that they have, including the First Friday events, a way to meet them in a more informal setting. Or you can also give a call and set up a time there as well. A reminder, 3 locations in the Richmond area. Find one that's convenient for you. Or if it is just that phone call, it is 804-635-3550. Again, 804-635-3550. Over on Kiplinger.com, there is an article about the danger of the stock market turning sour the year that you retire. The story followed 2 brothers, Sam and Dave. Each had $500,000 at retirement. They took out $30,000 a year to live on. So seems about the same. Here's the thing. Sam retired in 2000 and Dave in 2010. After 10 years, Dave had $874,000. Sam had $96,000. That's because he went through the huge market declines of 2000 and 2008, and Dave did not. He retired during the recovery. Was Sam just unlucky, or was there something that he could have done to minimize that loss?
Well, you're looking at 2 different circumstances, and we talk about this quite a bit, is that timing is everything, but the one thing that we can't do is time it, right? You cannot time the market. You can't time what it's going to do, especially in today's market. I mean, today could be down 2% and the following day be up 3% just because somebody said something, right? So you've got to protect yourself from that. And, we all remember 2008. Right. And that was really bad. And there were people that if they weren't prepared and they were going to retire in 2008, either they didn't make it the way that they wanted to for retirement, or they didn't and they continued to work. So many people get caught up in what has gone well in the past. And we got to look forward to the future, because if you're not needing the investments, if you're not needing the income, things look completely different than when you do need the income. So while we're working and we're building this up, we're making contributions. More than likely our employer's making contributions, plus we have market returns. When you're in retirement, no more contributions for you, for the employer, and then we have market returns. So if you don't have some protected growth built in there and you retire in 2000 and those first 3 years are bad, not only are you losing money, but you're also using money, that's going to be an issue, right? To whereas if you retire into one of the best bull runs the market's ever seen, things look completely different. So sequence of returns is one of those things that, look, we all know the market's going to go up and down. We just don't know how good or how bad or when that's going to take place. It's a lot easier to ride the roller coaster while we're working because we don't need to pull funds out. When we are not working, most of us are going to need to draw into those assets. And even if you don't, and they're pre-tax, because most Americans have pre-tax vehicles, we're going to be required to at some point in time. So once again, is you don't want to pull money when things aren't going up, because now you're selling at a lower point. And we all know that you're supposed to buy low and you sell high, but a lot of people, especially in today's market, are going to do something different just because of the emotional side or irrational side.
Right.
Pick your word, right? But I think that's the biggest thing. And, once again, sequence of returns when you're not taking withdrawals don't really matter. It is going to matter when you're taking money out of those accounts.
And I would say most people, they need to understand that, you don't have control over everything in your life. You can do all the right things. You can sit there and save the money that you wanted to. You can invest it the proper way, and be disciplined and do everything that you're supposed to do. But all of a sudden, you fixing to retire and the market drops out. You have no control of when that market's going to do it, whether it goes up or it goes down. So you just need to be prepared and have a plan. Not just saying I've got, a lot of people come in our first meeting and say, this is my retirement plan and they give us their statements from their 401k. It does not mean that you have a retirement plan. It just shows you the value of your 401k. That is not a plan. I mean, you just need to have a game plan. It's not guesswork. I think the biggest thing that people need to understand, whatever you're doing when you were 20 and 30 years old, probably isn't the same thing that you're doing right now at 60 and 70 years old, or it shouldn't be. Let's put it that way. So in one conversation can change everything that you've done. It could be the best conversation in the world, but now's the time to find out whether you've done the right thing or not. Give us a call. Let us know what you're doing and what you're trying to do.
That number is 804-635-3550. You know, again, 804-635-3550. Earlier in the show, we were talking about annuities, and you guys very clearly made it very clear that that is not an all or nothing situation. Sometimes it is or not put all of your eggs into an annuity sort of situation. It's the same sort of thing when it comes to money in the market in retirement. It's not you need all of your money in the market. You don't need all of your money out of the market. There is money there that you're not going to be touching for 15, 20, perhaps longer years. So you can afford to think of it like a younger-minded investor and withstand the ups and downs there and then let that grow when it does eventually rebound. On the other side of it, there is money there that you are absolutely going to need it for the immediacy. And so if you can find ways to protect that from the whims of the market where you're not having to pull in down markets, that can go a long way to giving people that confidence as they enter into it. It comes down to having that plan, that retirement roadmap, which can be revised as the situation merits, but it all begins with setting up a time to speak with you guys and start developing that retirement roadmap. 804-635-3550 is how you do that. Again, complimentary conversation, 804-635-3550. You can set up a time on the website as well. That's at welcomehomefp.com. Actor and comedian Bill Murray is a lifelong Chicago Cubs fan, and growing up in the 50s meant watching the team on black and white TV. We recently had a chance to actually sit down and speak with him, and he told us that finally visiting Wrigley Field as a young boy was it was absolutely mind-blowing.
We got to the ballpark, and we started to walk up the stairs to the interior of the ballpark, and my brother said, wait. And he put his hands over my eyes, and he said, okay, walk up. And I walked up the last few steps, and he took my hands away, and I saw all this green and all this ivy and the scoreboard and the grass. And it's unforgettable. What it looks like is I'd never seen it in color. It was like seeing an amazing impressionist painting. My God, look what it does to me. It really was an amazing experience.
I don't know if you can fully hear it there, but he actually did tear up while he was telling us about that memory. I have to wonder, do you guys have stories from your clients where you knew you were going to help them create moments, these memories that they won't forget?
Yeah, I definitely, there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily know what's next for them, right? Mm-hmm. They don't know what that next chapter looks like. There's a lot of people now that have done so well at saving, and they feel like they're not going to be able to do the things that they want to do either, right? Because they're not used to it, because they've scrimped and they've saved and they've socked it all away. So they don't necessarily know what's going to be next. And, that's one of the questions that we asked them in the very beginning is, hey, when you retire, what do you want to do? Like, you've got to have something to retire to, whether it's taking more trips, whether it's the grandkids, whether, it's just picking up another hobby or two. That's what it's all about, because, it's not about the numbers that are in your accounts. Now, granted, we need that, right? So we need to make sure that we've got some numbers in the accounts, but it's also about the numbers of memories. And that's where it's more important, because once again, it's still kind of family dynamic. We meet with people that don't have kids, grandkids, they don't have siblings. So there's not a whole lot that they feel like that they're going to look forward to, but that is definitely something for them that they've got to pay attention to, because what you don't want to do is retire and now you're just kind of stagnant and nothing's happening. And, now there is 24 hours in a day and they don't have anything to fill that. So I think it's very important to determine what the next chapter of your life is going to look like.
And I think most people in their retirement years or right before they're fixing to retire, we have done everything to save and build up our nest egg for that retirement account, but they've never asked themselves this question. Now, what do I actually want to do with this money? That's a question that most people never thought about. There are people out there, have one person that came in and he had $2.5 million and sat there and was talking to him, and he said that he wanted to take $20,000 a month for vacations. And I kind of looked at him and I'm like, $20,000 a month, not a year? No, a month. And I said, okay. And I said, well, do you realize how long your $2.5 million will last if you do that? Because that's $250,000 a year on vacations. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of unusual for somebody to come in and have that kind of wish. Most people, we have other clients that we have to exactly tell them, you've got enough money, don't worry about it. Go take that cruise. Go take that vacation to Disney World with your grandkids. You've got enough money to do that. Are you sure I can do that? Yes, you can. You've got plenty of money here. I mean, and then next thing you know, one client, particularly one couple, they took a couple of cruises about the third or fourth year in retirement, and they came back and said, we really like this, so we're going to start every quarter going to have a cruise like that. And I said, you got plenty of money to do that because of the way that you've saved money. So those are all things that you need to be aware of. Yes, it's nice to have that big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow when you retire. But if you don't use it, somebody else is going to. You get to choose whether it's you or your kids or your grandkids. So why not enjoy some of it? You don't want to spend all of it because you still don't know how long you're going to live. But you work for 40 years, 30 years, whatever it is, to accumulate, enjoy some of it because you just don't know how much time that you have left here. Retirement should be about experiences, not about account balances.
Absolutely. As you get closer and closer to retirement, and even, a little earlier than that, what is the goal? Is your goal to have, so many commas in your balance? Is your goal to beat the S&P 500, or is it to make these memories? Is it to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor? Having a plan put in place gives you more confidence to be able to do that. As fiduciaries, the team, Ralph and Tim, they're going to tell you, as we said before, the things that you need to hear, maybe not the things that you want to hear. As you mentioned, that gentleman who wants to do $20,000 a month in retirement, that is a considerable amount, but you let him know that ahead of time. Ultimately, his decision was his. But on the other side, sometimes there are people out there who can definitely afford to, relax more, to take those cruises quarterly, to spend more time with the grandkids. And wouldn't that be nice to know as well? You don't know until you have pen put to paper, until you have that retirement roadmap put together. And that all begins with the next step. The first step was joining us right here on the show. The next step is sitting down and speaking with the team at Welcome Home Financial Partners. You can do that by giving a call, 804-635-3550, to begin that complimentary conversation, to begin that retirement roadmap process, to begin making those memories and not just money. 804-635-3550. You can also go to the website, always available day and night there. That is welcomehomefp.com. As always, I want to thank you for joining us here on Aspire to Retire with Ralph and Tim Short. Really do appreciate you taking the time to join us this week. Hope you have a great week ahead of you. Stay safe out there. Gentlemen, appreciate the time, as always. Hope you have a great week as well. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with the final word.
Thank you, Chris. And we want to thank everybody for listening. But, we talked about red flags and things to pay attention to. And, we talk about our retirement roadmap process quite a bit. So once again, if you call in from today's show, we'll sit down with you in one of the offices around town for the first meeting, kind of gather up your ideas and try to see where you want to be. Meeting number 2, we're going to sit down and say, here's things that are going well, things that you could potentially change. Or, we're on track or we're off base and we got to regroup a little bit. But I think it's very important for people to get that second opinion, whether you feel like things are going well or, and Dad will tell you the same thing. Is there's so many times we meet with people, they just have no idea what they're doing. Now, once again, you're not always going to know the ins and the outs of everything, but you should at least understand the strategy behind it. And that's what that retirement roadmap will show. So once again, we'd love the opportunity to sit down with you guys in the office and create your very own just for you complimentary. And once again, we want to thank everybody for listening and take care.
All content is for information purposes only. It is not intended to provide any tax or legal advice or provide the basis for any financial decision, nor is it intended to be a projection of current or future performance or indication or future results. Opinions expressed herein are solely those of Welcome Home Financial Partners and Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC. The information contained in this material has been derived from sources believed to be reliable, but is not guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness and does not purport to a complete analysis of the materials discussed. All information and ideas should be discussed in detail with your individual advisor prior to the implementation. Each individual investor's situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstance. Advisor services are offered by Welcome Home Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Virginia. Being registered as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Insurance products and services are offered through WPI Holding, Virginia Insurance License Number 138509, an affiliated company. The information contained contained herein should in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell or offer to sell advisory services to any residents of any state other than the state of Virginia or where otherwise legally permitted. Welcome Home Wealth Advisors LLC and Welcome Home Financial Partners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency.